This season of Truly Independent is supported by the Help Them See Foundation. Help Them See is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting feature films that inspire faith, hope, and connection. By partnering with filmmakers, the Help Them See Foundation brings meaningful stories to life and shares them with audiences worldwide, making a lasting cultural impact through the power of cinema. Learn more and discover how you can be part of the movement by visiting helpthemseefoundation.org. Welcome to Season 3 of Truly Independent. I'm Garrett Batty alongside my co-host Daren Smith. Each week, we'll go in-depth with guests, industry experts, and we'll even share our own experiences, all with the goal of demystifying the independent film process. This season, it's all about the script, from the first spark of an idea to a polished final draft, breaking it down for scheduling, budgeting, and ultimately shooting. We'll walk through every step it takes to get from page to production. Welcome to Truly Independent.
Hello, Garrett. How are you?
Hey, good, Daren. Welcome to another episode. Nice to see you.
It's good to be here, and good to see you again. We were hanging out yesterday, and it was fun.
Yes, we were. It was fun, and I'll tell you, man, you're running a fun movie over there, and it's always great to come on site and see what you're putting together.
Yeah, well, and I also love that we get to hop on the next day and talk about it, because that's what we want to do with this show, is demystify the indie film journey. And, we're charting our own path in some ways on this movie with Brotherhood and with Producer Fund, and something we did yesterday that was maybe different than we typically do it. And so I'm excited to dive in today on that topic. It's going to be a good one.
Fantastic. I guess we don't have to hesitate. We can just dive right in. Along the lines, this episode, we want to focus on the tools that can be used, or the methods that can be used, that the vision of the film that the director has, or the filmmaker has, is properly communicated to the entire crew, all those whose job it is to create that film and that vision.
Yeah. And what I've seen happen a lot on previous movies is the director communicating with an individual one-on-one, and rarely has the opportunity to get everyone into a room, sit down and go, okay, who are our key creative people here? You've got your cinematographer, you've got your production designer, your costume designer. On our movie, you have a choreographer who has a big lift on this movie to help tell the story visually. And would it help to have them all talking to each other as well as the director, so there's this kind of shared experience, rather than, okay, the director's having a conversation with the cinematographer, but that doesn't ever get translated to the costumer, or and then you're in pre-production, and then you're rushing every day, and there's too many things pulling at you at every minute of every day as the director to be able to have the time that you wish you had to have those conversations. Does that feel like your experience, or am I projecting a little bit?
No, I think you're right on. I think that is an experience, and we want to try to figure out ways or give input as to how to avoid that or how to streamline that. And just to give you some context, the listener some context, Daren, you're 5 weeks out from production on Brotherhood, right, on this musical. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
And that's at time of recording. So by the time people are listening to this, it'll be shorter. And I am about 3 weeks out from going to Romania for my first production meeting and kind of kick off. It's a scout trip, but I'll be meeting with department heads. And so I feel like we're simultaneously in this same process right now, where we've got to communicate the vision for the film, what this film is, to it's like leaving the nest. Now it's getting out there, and there's lots of other creatives that are starting to get involved. And how do we make sure that we are efficient with those ideas and with their time, and yet still just give people what they need to do their best work?
Yeah. And one of the things that we instituted with Producer Fund One, with all the filmmakers I'm going to work with, is minimum 6 months of development before we enter pre-production. And Ross hated that idea because he was ready to shoot. He was like, let's go. I want to be shooting now and releasing in 4th of July next year. I was like, dude, I love you, and I love the passion and how much you want to go make this movie, but that's not a recipe for a good movie. That's a recipe for a rushed movie that isn't going to resonate the way you want it to. So we were able to have the time starting in November, and it's now March, to be able to go and find the right people, find the right cast, the right crew, the right creative partners, to have time for them to make sure that they're available, right? Because a lot of times what happens on every movie that I've worked on is you get the money and then you're in pre-production the next day, so you're quickly trying to hire whatever crew is available, but your number one and maybe your number two picks are already working, and they're working the next 3 months, so they can't work on your movie that starts in 6 weeks. And when you have that runway, when you have that 5 6 months, I mean, for us it's minimum 6 months of time, you can get the good people that you want to get because they're not booked 6 months out, for example. So that extra time is something I think is really important when you don't have tons and tons of budget to throw at a movie. It's like, well, to give yourself the gift of time then.
Yeah. So with that time, then once you've built the team, or at least you got your department heads, the job of the director is not just to have this vision for the movie, but to be able to translate it so that all the collaborators can execute it. So I wanted to discuss on this episode the things that we use, or the things that filmmakers can use to help translate their vision. So we'll get into lookbooks and vision boards and
Mm-hmm.
meetings and location and scouts and creative summits and all of that stuff.
Nice.
Reference films, all that. Sound good? I think you muted yourself, or I muted you, but you are on mute.
I muted myself. That was good. Yes, I'm very excited for this conversation. I think it's going to be super helpful because, yeah, you want everyone to be on the same page and making the same movie. And all the things we're going to talk about today, the handful of different tools that we have, are really important. So
Yeah.
I think we dive in.
Okay, so step one for The Pearl, which is this 1960s to 1980s East German spy movie that I'm doing. We're going to be shooting in Romania, and we have to come up with a way to tell our Romanian crew what we're doing. So the first thing is that I'll be sending them over a lookbook, which is what it sounds like. It's the visual DNA for the movie, right? So I'll have all of these pictures, but it's designed to show like tone and color and texture and emotional reference. And it just basically answers to anybody who looks at it, what does this movie feel like?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of work, but it's much easier to do it once in a lookbook than to do it 50 times in a conversation.
Yeah, when a script doesn't have these elements in it, the script is what happens to the characters throughout time. It's sometimes will reference what they're wearing, but it's not going into detail on tone and color palette and lighting style and referencing other costumes from other movies or other camera movement for that. It's not referencing those things. That's not what a script is for. So having a lookbook, it kind of gives the visual feel of the movie in a different format than a script. And so the thing that I love about lookbooks is you get it in like 2 seconds. You can kind of just look at 3 images stacked and go, oh, I get it. It's like this. You can instantly go, oh, it looks like The Matrix, or it looks like Bridge of Spies, or it looks like a cartoon, or it looks like hyperrealism, or, whatever. You can instantly go, great. Because I know what it looks like, I kind of know what it feels like. And then I can go, oh, I can reference in my mind other movies that feel like that. And then go, oh, I know how to make that, or I know what kind of emotional content we're after, or what kind of tools we're going to need, or what kind of equipment and support we're going to need in order to pull it off. And all of a sudden it triggers that whole waterfall of ideas and strategies of how to pull it off. And it's a really, really important tool for a director to be able to say, this is the movie I want to make.
Yeah. And I think you need to be as specific as you can as a director. If there are real specific things with a particular character or a location, that should go in the lookbook. It should be noted, where it's again this tone, color, and texture and emotional reference that really dials down. So there's no question or no surprises. You don't want surprises on the set. And by the same token, if you're more open to input, and I don't want to sound like you're not open to input. As a director, you always be open to input. You want to plant enough seeds so that your department heads can just run with it, and they come back with their takes on it and their improvements on it, but give them the point them in the right direction and then tell them to run.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they don't cover very much ground.
Yeah. What kind of tools are you using to create these things? Are you using AI? Are you using Photoshop? Are you grabbing screen grabs from other movies? Are you doing Google search? Like what? I've never made a lookbook before. Like that's not a thing I've ever had to do. So I'm curious, like if a listener is going, yeah, I want a career like Garrett's, I want to make movies. How do they do this?
Good question. For The Pearl, which is a set in reality, true story, I'm not going to AI as much as I probably could. I'm Google searching a lot of like historical references, saying like this is what the Stasi wore, and we want exaggerated versions of that, or this is an actual the GDR headquarters building, and we want to match that, create that as accurately as we can. Um, Same thing with wardrobe and production design. I'm going to Google image searching and building a keynote with a dozen images on each page based on character or location mentioned in the film.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
But I think, yeah, I think for some movies, AI illustrations are great. When we did The Carpenter, I had an illustrator create like several key images
Oh
from the
wow.
film. They were like, oh, that's what we're going for. Okay.
Yeah. It
Which
almost
might,
seems like you want to have an idea of what the poster looks like. Like that's kind of what you're working around. And like somewhere in the middle emerges the idea of, because that's ultimately what it turns into, right? Like your lookbook, then you go shoot the movie and then you have a trailer. And the trailer is the lookbook for the audience, where you're saying in one image, we have to capture what this movie is, how you're going to feel, what it's like, and why you would want to see it.
yeah, I don't think that there's any reason to skimp on the lookbook. I guess you certainly don't want to have images in there. If you got, hey, this character wears stripes all the time, and then you got a bunch of plaid shirts because you like the way they look, is not the right idea. So be specific, and but have an abundance of images. I think that's fine. Again, anything we can do to help. If I'm head of the wardrobe department, and I want to know, hey, what's in the director's head so that I can put my creative power behind it. I want to know real clearly what the vision is.
Yeah.
And I
Awesome.
can and I said vision. I'm trying not to say vision because I don't want to confuse this with a vision board.
Is that a different thing?
Yes, because that is not images relating to the film. That's the feel. It's interesting. The vision board is like more artwork, like-minded artwork. Okay, the Pearl, I'm gonna put the poster for Jojo Rabbit and Monuments Men and all of that kind of in this vision board. And I'm gonna
Gotcha.
put references to cool soundtracks that I like and maybe fun quotes or just different imagery that doesn't have to do with the movie, but hey, this is what I want the audience to feel in this scene.
Gotcha. So it's more of a like a collage kind of thing rather than a step by step, like here's costumes, here's cinematography, here's locations, where you're actually pulling pictures and you're probably putting them into like different sections and presenting it as more of a document for reference, whereas a vision board is like, here's all the emotional things that come to mind when I think about this movie.
Yes. Yeah, they say that like the vision board is the soul of the
Mm.
movie and the lookbook is the body of the movie.
Oh,
It's like,
interesting.
oh, okay, that's what that looks like. Now, what does it feel like? And that's the vision board.
No, that's awesome. Okay, I love that. So you got a vision board, you got a lookbook. One thing that I love, because sometimes I guess I've seen a lot of lookbooks that do have that conflicting issue that you mentioned, which is okay, you got four movies that you're referencing here and they are not the same,
Totally different.
you know.
Which
But
is okay as long as you're real specific as to why. Why have I put this picture of the Matrix here and then a picture of Star Wars? You go, okay, I want the gunshot reel, the fun, hyped up. gunfights of the Matrix, but whatever. But
Yeah,
with lightsabers.
but with lightsabers.
I don't know. I thought that you guys yesterday on your creative summit, maybe you want to get into this, um, had some great looks, and it seemed like everyone was very early on the same page. Do you want to talk about kind of what that was yesterday that allowed that to happen?
Yeah, so back in November, as I was kind of mapping out the development schedule because I'd never really made one. And, I know what a pre-production schedule looks like. I've made many of those. But it's like, okay, we've got 6 months for development. What are we doing in those time periods? So it's more fundraising, it's casting, it's crewing up, it's all those things. We're recording the music. There's all these things that have to happen. And the thought was, we really should have a moment, like a day, where all the key creatives come into town and get to spend some time with Ross, get to know Ross, get to know each other, like get some time to just hang out over a meal and talking about the movie. And this was like an idea that I put down in our schedule back in November for sometime around February or March. And then February came and I saw it on the schedule. I was like, hey, Ross, we should think about this. And at the time, I think we had all of our key creatives figured out. And so we scheduled it. We scheduled it for March 9th, which was yesterday. We flew in two of our crew people. So our costume designer and our production designer both are based in LA. And the other, the cinematographer and the choreographer are here. We had our line producer there. We had our first AD there. We had our key cultural consultant there. And we had Ross there and me there. And it was an awesome day. Like the first hour of the day was at Ross's house. We went around the circle and introduced each other and why we feel connected to this story. And it was so cool because, man, people instantly got vulnerable. We crewed up one of the, I don't want to get long-winded with this whole thing, but I think it's important to this story and this movie. One of the things that Ross decided was that all of the key creatives were going to be of Mexican descent, not just Hispanic, but Mexican. So all four of them are cinematographer, production designer, costume designers, choreographer, are all either born in Mexico or have lived in Mexico or their parents are from Mexico. And that really bonded everybody like instantly. And half the day was in Spanish. Ross was speaking to them in Spanish and they were speaking to each other in Spanish. And I'm trying to keep up because I don't really speak Spanish. But having time together was amazing. So that was the idea behind the day. We did a little bit of location scouting. We got to know each other. We shared some meals. But a big core of the day was like 2-3 hours where we sat in a room together with a screen and Ross's computer and saying, okay, here's the very first, I would call it a vision board, right? I think that he shared of like, here are images that I think represent what the movie we're trying to make. And then he got into the lookbooks that were provided by the production designer and the costume designer. And it was just like, it shocked me how on the same page everybody was. Like they
Yeah.
already got it. And it's probably
Oh,
because, yeah,
you guys had the same images in different lookbooks. Like it was,
yeah,
they were prepared by different people.
it was nuts.
It was great. It
It
was
was nuts.
great. And they okay. We have clearly Ross has clearly communicated
Mhm.
the movie, and now people are going, okay, this is what we understand, and now we're going to create it.
Yeah. I think the most important thing that came from that time spent together was everybody understood that we're making the same movie and it started sparking ideas that only could have come from being in the room together talking about the same thing at the same time because Ross could have a moment with the cinematographer, but then how does he translate that same moment, that same spark of an idea to the other three unless they're all in the same room? So there were 3 or 4 times where cinematographers going, oh, you said something that really made me think of this movie and this moment, so everybody should go watch the opening sequence to this movie, and everybody's writing down like all the movies that everybody's referencing. And it kept happening where, oh, you're talking about this and I didn't really understand it until you said it that way, but that informs what I was thinking about this. And there was all these really cool dots getting connected that I think, again, only really could happen in a room like that. So it was really cool to get everybody there, to get to know them, to have time to like forge actual relationships with people before they go and start head down working on their thing for the movie.
It was neat, and I've been in that situation where you're getting ready to start a movie because Darren, you're 5 weeks out from production,
Mhm.
which would mean you're in prep. This is definitely prep.
That was the official kickoff of prep.
Yes.
Everybody starts yesterday, basically.
And I felt like that in movies that I've done in the past, prep starts, but it's more, okay, you're hired and here's the script, and then let's get together and talk about it and can do a breakdown. And you do that with each department head. And then the first time you're all meeting is at the table read a week or two before the show starts.
Yeah.
You think, oh, it'd be nice, not when you're all meeting, but when you're all meeting together, like creatively.
Yeah.
And so I think you guys have the summit that you did, the kickoff, really was a cool thing. I've wanted to do that as a director. It was cool to see it put into place.
That's awesome. The couple of times where I've seen people come together, like half the people are in the room, one or two people couldn't make it because they're on another shoot, and half of them are on Zoom. The actors and stuff, they're not in town yet because they don't come in till rehearsals and stuff. So it's not
Yeah.
the same as sharing a meal together or sitting in a living room together in the director's house and getting vulnerable and sharing our not our deepest darkest secrets, but like why this movie resonates with us. And so that to me was worth the expense, the time, the investment of like, let's do this. It's not a typical thing, but I think it's going to help us. And I went to bed last night feeling like this might be the most important money we spent on the movie to get everybody on the same page and feeling like we are doing this together, not just side by side, but like together.
So one of the things that came up a little bit yesterday, either in conversation or just in presentation, was why Ross was making the movie, and that's come up in the several times in the series that you guys are doing, the behind the scenes series that I'm there for, and that brings us to another key element of the tools that a director can use to help communicate their vision. And I want to be so sensitive to the saying that to communicate their vision because it's not. It's communicating the look and the feel for the film and encouraging others to align their visions.
Yeah.
But is the director's statement? You got your lookbook, you got a mood board, and then a statement. Director's statement is the why the story matters to you, and in that you'll articulate via a few paragraphs of the tone of the film and the themes and emotional goals, and is an opportunity to get vulnerable in word as to why you're making this movie. And The Pearl is a comedy, like it's a spy comedy. So the tone of that isn't going to be to get super vulnerable and dramatic with that, but I should still have a statement that is driving my why. My why, because during the research of this movie, I found great humor in it and great joy and a deeply personal connection in that my father served in the same area in the world uh,
Yeah.
in a similar time when this was occurring. So that would be my statement on that, and I'd write that up and share that with my department heads. It would encourage them. It might be nice and informative, but it also in their approach, I think helps is very helpful in saying, okay, there's meaning to this story, or this is why we're doing this. And it would maybe hopefully encourage them to think, what is their statement? Why are they attached to it?
Yeah. I think it's really important to have it written down, but I think the real magic happens when it gets off the page and the director's using it in the day to day. So what I've seen Ross do over the last 5, 6 months is basically have a verbal version of the director's statement. Here's where it came from, the reason that I felt compelled to make it, how I started making it, how it's impacting people already. And he's been using that to enroll cast and crew. And so you have these people that are coming onto this project passionate because Ross kind of gave them some of his passion for the project. They go, "Oh wow, I'm able to bring my passion to this too. It's not just another job. This is a movie that's intended to have some impact and change people for the better. Wow, okay, I can bring that to the table." And he made it possible because he shared that. The other way that we're seeing it right now play out in real time is he's using it in conversations with locations. And so we're knocking on doors and talking to restaurants and churches and big locations that we're trying to lock down for this movie, and probably 85% of the way there right now. But there's been 2 or 3 already where we were explicitly told by the location team, oh, that's a no-go. Like, we've tried it on half a dozen projects. They don't let films film here. One of them is a church that we're going to be filming at. And so Ross told their location crew, the location team, can you at least set up an opportunity for me to talk to them? He said, yeah, sure, I guess, if you want us to. So they set up a meeting. Ross goes over and basically does what we just talked about, shares the director's statement, but in a very conversational, passionate way with the person who kind of runs the church. And by the end, she's 100% enrolled and just goes, this sounds amazing and perfectly aligned with the type of stuff that we want to be supporting. Come on in, let's look at it, and I'll show you the space. And it was like, okay, look at that. The director's statement got us a location, basically. But it's not because he sent it
Beautiful, a
to her in
beautiful cathedral,
a
by the way,
beautiful cathedral.
beautiful cathedral.
And it's not because he sent it to her in an email, right? It's
Yeah,
because it got off the page and he was using it, and it was true and it was real. And again, I don't think it's limited to movies that are like Brotherhood, where there's a message and there's that
right,
sort of impact that's intended from the movie. I think every movie has the ability to enroll people the same way if you can tell that it matters to the director and why.
right. And that director's statement comes into play even in the fundraising.
Yeah.
And I know I'm using it for it's been very helpful for our Help Them See Foundation to attract donors because we're not just talking about the movie, but like really the why behind it. And that's working. Okay, other tools. Your character and tone guides.
Hmm.
These would be helpful for your wardrobe and hair and makeup and production design and your actors, honestly. So you've got a write up, basically I call it a character breakdown. And here's who this character is. Here's 3 other characters that are similar to this character. Here's the story and the arc, and then looks. And I certainly don't want to do the job of the hair and makeup and
Mhm.
wardrobe person. I don't want to step on toes at all. But again, if I can clearly communicate at least my what I understand, what my takeaway is of the character, it helps them immensely to not have to guess.
Yeah. When
We're
it's
going,
what's interesting about a character tone guide, like you'd think that that's handed off to the costumer, but it actually is really important for the production designer. It's really important for the cinematographer to go, okay. And we saw this play out yesterday where Oscar, our cinematographer, was like, okay, I think we've got to start like this. And this character is going to be small in the frame and he's going to be obscured by things in the foreground. And the camera is going to be distant because he hasn't let us in yet. And it's like, oh man, think about how the character breakdown that Ross gave him informed the camera movement, which is then also then Frida, our production designer, chimes in and goes, yeah, this house has to feel this way, whereas this house has to feel this way. And the contrast that she was talking about between spaces, and over here it's functional and over here it's family, and those types of things, just like, oh my gosh. But that came from the script and these character breakdowns so that we actually have three-dimensional characters that aren't just actors in clothing standing in a room. It's,
right.
oh no, this is their home and we believe it because of these reasons.
One of the things I thought worked out really well yesterday, here's a real practical application of that. You guys had these character breakdowns and you knew what you were doing. Your DP and your first AD and your production designer were trying to solve an issue that was going to come up because you needed a bedroom for a particular scene. And you happen to be standing outside in the back. And with Ross there, the decision was saying, look, what if we can't get that bedroom, what can we do? And everybody was able to offer solutions like, hey, could this scene take place here? And it wasn't just, hey, logistically, yeah, we could do this here. But it was like, hey, for the importance of the character, she's a teenage girl. She might be out on her back porch at that time, talking on the phone rather than in a room. Yeah, we could do it here. And you were able to solve potential problems just from having a good understanding of the character from a character breakdown.
Yeah.
It was really great.
And I think it lends to the fact that we had time set aside to go and scout some of the hero locations of the movie to go, is this going to work logistically? Like
Yeah,
before we even
yeah,
got into the house, Ross was standing outside going, here's the 3 houses for our 3 characters that live on this street together. And it's not like I wrote in the script, this is his house, this is his house, and this is the third guy's house. And
yeah.
everyone's going, oh, okay. Well, he presented a quandary where we're going, okay, how do we collectively solve this? And it was like at the beginning, it was, well, it could be the exterior of this house, but the interior of this house, or the exterior of this house and the backyard of this house and the interior of this house. There were a lot of options there. And by the end, we had it solved. We knew exactly how we were going to pull it off and what mattered. So
Right.
there were 2 options for Frida, the production designer, and it really turned to her to say, we could shoot the entire thing in this house, or we could shoot 80% of it in this house and the bedroom in this house. She goes, no, this is the house. The second option is definitely a better house for this family. So let's figure out the bedroom in another space that makes sense. And that's easy. And it's, like my favorite thing is watching creative people do their best work. And you got little glimpses of that even yesterday as we're just talking in theory at this point. You can still see them lighting up and solving problems and bringing their expertise and their talent to the table to say, here's how we're going to do it. Oh, so cool.
It was very impressive. It was great. Um, I liked watching the discussion between Ross and the DP to talk about like camera movement and usage and lighting even. Um, and it just felt more in that creative summit, in that environment where you've got your production designer and your hair, makeup, and wardrobe, or excuse me, your wardrobe department head, and even your AD, where you're all able to communicate, not in like full blown like pre-production tech scout breakdown, but just creatively what would be best for these scenes. So how is camera movement going to be affected by production design and so forth?
Yeah. It's an
It was really nice.
interesting, excuse me. It's an interesting, like, additional scout because you have the director's scout where he or she is going out and finding the locations that they think work for the movie. But then later on, you have a tech scout where the entire team is showing up and going, here's the location. We've already picked it. And this is what we're going to base camp here. We're going to park check trucks here. We're going to plug in here. We're going to have to bring a generator because this house is underpowered or whatever. You're talking the technical things. This is one in between where it's like, we think these are the locations and this is how we think we can pull it off, but we want your input. And that I think really mattered to everybody that showed up because they don't often get that opportunity.
Yeah.
Usually the director's going, this is it. And they're like, oh man, well, I don't have enough room for a camera in here. So like we had 2 options for kitchens, not home kitchens, but like commercial restaurant kitchens that we presented yesterday. And the choreographer was like, oh my gosh, this one, there's so much space and movement and blah, blah, blah. It was like, oh, well, clearly it needs to be this one instead of this one. And how cool that he got to inform that decision based on what his needs were rather than saying, this is it. You got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What's the goal? The goal before we're doing like why do all this? Because it seems like a lot of work, and we're obviously on independent film budgets. We're truly independent, right? So we're not just bleeding money. So why do all this?
For me, I think it really does come down to alignment. You want people not just enrolled in the process, which we've done, but you want people to be on the same page and really aligned with what I want is what Ross wants, not because I want to please Ross, but because we are aligned. And that to me is the reason to do it. Because if you can have half a dozen people in a room all coming out of that room or at the end of the day going, we are 100% aligned. What I want for this is what you want for this, and it works together. That is such a gift to the crew before they even start. So now they can go into pre-production and go, okay, I'm very pleased with the spaces I have, with the actors I have, with the crew, with the other people that are making this. Now I get to go do my best work instead of thinking about, oh, I'm so ticked about this location, or oh my gosh, like The director
Right.
has this thing about the color orange, but that makes no sense. But I have to do it because it's on his lookbook. And so, okay, I guess I'll put orange in everybody's outfits, which makes no sense. And we'll have orange pillows in the background because there's no connection to anything. It's just a weird color thing. I think the next 5 weeks are going to, it's always hard. It's always not enough time. It's always not enough budget. It's always not enough resources. But because we have that alignment that we earned from spending a day together and having the desire and the intention of coming out aligned, that it's going to make the emotional and mental aspect, I think, that much easier and smoother, or maybe less frictionful because of that alignment. So
Is it frictitious? Is that what it is?
frictionally less.
Darren, I would even suggest that it would save money because I think that again, you want to prevent confusion before production starts because confusion on set is expensive. So you get everybody aligned and enrolled, and then you're not spending time fixing things or adjusting creative decisions that are not aligned with the vision. And I think that's probably that's that term that I want. It's one and multiple people's creativity to execute that. And
Yeah.
that's what you want.
Yeah. It's almost like one person's bringing the red and one person's bringing the green and one person's bringing the blue. And as soon as all three are aligned, you've got that full color palette. So there's that analogy for you. But it made me think of, I can think of 2 times on the first 2 movies I produced. I think you've essentially learned how to solve this in your career because I don't remember moments on The Carpenter or on Faith of Angels where you were like, oh no, that's not what I wanted at all on set. But on the first movie, there was an issue with the costumes for our lead actress. And the director looked at the costume and was like, what is this? It's like none of this makes any sense. And the
Oh
same
no.
thing happened on the second movie that I
Oh.
did where we, our set decorator we built a set on a stage and they decorated a kid's room because we were supposed to like smash through a door and throw people around. And so it was like, we can't do it in a house. There's not enough space. We need to be able to pull walls down and all that stuff. Director walks in at the end of a shoot day. We're shooting this location the next morning. The director walks in and about tears the place. Like he was livid and contained it really well. He didn't lash out or anything, but he was just like, this is 100% wrong. I don't know how you're going to fix it, but you're going to fix it before we show up tomorrow and film in here. And our poor set decorator literally had an anxiety attack, fell to the ground and passed out because he hadn't been sleeping, hadn't been eating. We come to find out that night at 11 o'clock at night.
Oh
And
wow.
4 of us on the crew, myself, first AD, another set decorator, and the I forget who the fourth person was, are scrambling like, can we go to Walmart because that's the only place that's open at 11:30 at night to find set decoration and try to salvage this thing. And then the next few days, I'm calling new production designers and new art department team because they let the director down and we're in the middle of the shoot. So, like you
Yeah.
said, all that to say, yes, getting aligned and communicating early solves a lot of problems on set. And man, I've learned a lot from those mistakes and those miscommunications and vowed at that moment, like, I don't ever want to see that happen again.
Yeah.
So,
It's painful, and you're giving me credit for having learned that, but that doesn't mean that I haven't made those mistakes. And I have my own horror stories of showing up again a week before production to shoot a movie about Liberty Jail, like a full movie about Liberty Jail. And our production designer is building Liberty Jail, but the weekend before we needed to shoot it, it looked like Snoopy's doghouse, which Liberty Jail is a very iconic building in Liberty, Missouri. And it was one of those moments where, like, wow, what we have here is a failure to communicate. Uh, and fortunately, we were able to pull strings and call former production designers and get the thing aligned with what we wanted to shoot. But I think, boy, had we perhaps had a creative summit before really kicking off pre-production, maybe we could have solved that issue or some of those issues.
Yeah. Hopefully we prevented some of those on the listeners of this podcast to go out and make movies, but have this communication, have some sort of a creative summit before pre-production officially starts to say, here's the movie we're trying to make, get aligned, ask questions, make sure everyone's on the same page, and then you can go make your awesome movie together.
Together. I think that's the key word there, together.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks, man. Great points.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, thank you to our
Oh, we should end the podcast.
we should end the podcast. No, thank you very much to our listeners. Please, if you've had your own production horror stories where you didn't communicate your vision, or you showed up and somebody was on an entirely different page, we'd love to hear about that. Or your success stories. That's probably more important, because no movie is made without having some success stories. So yeah, send those in and send us your questions on what we can talk about, and we'll keep telling you about the movies that we're making.
Amazing. Thanks, man. That was a good one.
Okay, Daren. This season of Truly Independent is supported by the Help Them See Foundation. Help Them See is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting feature films that inspire faith, hope, and connection. By partnering with filmmakers, the Help Them See Foundation brings meaningful stories to life and shares them with audiences worldwide, making a lasting cultural impact through the power of cinema. Learn more and discover how you can be part of the movement by visiting helpthemseefoundation.org. Thanks for joining us. If you are enjoying Truly Independent, please share and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the journey. Today's episode was edited by Michael Bradford and produced by 3 Coin Productions.